What's the turnaround plan, man? Yeah. They want these shares going up. You don't get shot for that. Like, no, this is America.
You do.
This
you
is
do get shot for that. They're not abducting 5-year-old children. Like that. Someone should sue you for that.
Keith Rabois has been ranked among the top 10 venture capitalists in the world. His husband is in the Trump administration. He's buddies with Peter Thiel. His boss is the guy that kicked you off the beach in California. I've been talking to Keith since I started reporting on Silicon Valley. I simultaneously respect the hell out of him as an investor while being infuriated by his insufferable tweeting. In this episode, which was hot off Keith hanging out with the vice president, JD Vance, we battled it out and didn't leave anything on the table. This is the Newcomer Podcast. Keith, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be with you.
All right. Do you want to talk about tech or politics more? That's the first question.
Well, do you want to write about tech or politics more?
You were saying just before we got on that politics is a little bit your junk food. And tech
it's like chocolate. It's like tastes good, but it's not nutritious. Like my job is to find the next best founders, the next generation of iconic companies.
Yeah.
It's not to be engaged in politics. Yes, as companies grow up, they have political interests, like as we've all learned,
right? And
they have to engage in the political sphere. But that's not what I do for a living.
Right. We'll get into both.
Sure.
I'm excited. We obviously have like a long history. I've profiled you. You let me needle you sometimes, which I always enjoy. Like, I feel like I'm conflicted in that I'm liberal while you're right wing, but I like the contrarian fighter, non-boring personality. So I'm endlessly conflicted on you at once, celebrating your willingness to say whatever you think while sort of disagreeing with a ton of it, at least the non-tech pieces of it.
Well, as you know, I work with colleagues who have disagreements as well.
Disagree. Yeah. All right. So let's start with some big tech news. Brex sold to Capital One. I joked, Eric Lyman's already been acquired by Capital One before, obviously, with his old company, Paribus. You were a Series A investor in Ramp, a great investment when you were seed. Okay. And then you led the Series A of Founders Fund. Okay. So very biased. You have exposure to Rippling, which I want to talk about in this whole thing through Founders Fund as well. But starting with the Brex sale and what it means for Ramp, what is your take?
Well, I'm excited because there's going to be one modern technology company. It's not going to be Capital One.
Right.
Like the history of technology and financial services has never been led since the 1960s through large banks. That's not going to change because they acquired Brex. So if you want to build a finance organization for the 21st century or the 22nd century, are you going to rely upon a technology startup like Ramp, or are you going to go to any bank in the world? You're not going to go to any bank in the world.
Right.
So it's clear the future is Ramp or nothing.
What about Mercury?
I'm not as familiar with them, honestly, so I shouldn't really comment. We don't really interact with them, or they don't seem to be competitive, but I don't have a lot of visibility into them.
I just bank with them, so I'm like, I agree with you that as a small growing company, I don't really want to go to a bank. I'm always having to call JP Morgan when I have some problem with that bank account, whereas Mercury never seems
I don't know Mercury. I haven't used them. I haven't studied them, and I don't know if they really conflict with my investments.
Right,
so I unusually don't have an opinion.
Do you feel like you guys, Delian maybe a little bit more than you, but I think you danced on Brex's grave a little bit too much, you're not in the celebrate founders?
Well, no. I mean, look, they quit. It's a good outcome for them and probably for most of their employees. That's fine. We're in the business of building $1 trillion company at Ramp. I will be very disappointed if they're not worth hundreds of billions. Like literally personally disappointed. And this is what we talk about as a board. When Eric, Kareem, and Zach Frankel and I get together, it's like, look, we can skate to 100 billion, but our ambitions about changing society and changing the way organizations are built and the way finance works should propel us to a much broader, much bigger ambition and the concomitant valuation that's associated with that. So I'm focused on the future of Ramp. I don't really care about Brex.
People think about it, corporate credit card that helps you cut spending. What gets them to the next level?
Yeah, so the next level is pretty straightforward. The CFO does care about cutting expenses, right? CFOs, controllers on down. And we started there. We're going to save you time and money. And but the CFO doesn't have the ability to stitch together all of their policies, which Ramp does do now. You can take corporate policies and implement them on the cards programmatically, but they don't recognize and reconcile like revenue against this data, against costs, against payroll. If you were the CFO's eyes and ears of the entire company, and a CFO could literally run a large organization and have complete transparency, complete visibility, all the data integrations. That's the future. Someone's going to build a company where the CFO sits around and maybe has almost no colleagues for a public company. And because they have all the data plumbing together, that's why a bank can't build this. Like, you know how many integrations you need to do on different data, structured data, unstructured data, how to synthesize it. You need a UI layer. Like,
Eric and Kareem, the founders of Ramp, have clearly leaned into AI very strategically, and both in marketing and in the actual product, which has been savvy. That sort of leads us into, now that Ramp and Brex, I mean, there could be some collision. Obviously, Capital One wants to compete with Ramp. But for the Silicon Valley story, is it going to be Ramp and Rippling these days? Or do you see a head-to-head competition?
Again, I'm not directly involved in Rippling. You're right. I was a GP at Founders Fund. We invested, and the biggest regret of my career is, and I've talked about in other podcasts, is I gave Parker a term sheet for the seed round. It was just a little too cheap on the valuation.
Gary Tan,
yeah. And Parker just wanted me to raise it a little bit, and I didn't. And I still have nightmares like almost every day about this. Like, Parker actually responded to one of my tweets about the nightmares. So I love Rippling. I love Parker. I helped actually him close Matt to join the company, Matt McInnes. So I'm a big fan. I don't think there's as much overlap as people think. Yes, at the margin, both companies have massive ambitions. And anytime you have two companies with massive ambitions that have some directional overlap, there's probably some, conflict at the margins, but it's not something I think of as like an existential fight.
Right. They both want to be the software of record for a business, right? Parker wants
definitely.
to be
I think Rippling
wants
to be the software record, system of record. He's always been interested in that space forever. Ramp, I don't think we think of it that way. We think we want to be the eyes, ears, and actions for the CFO. It's a little bit different. It's like, imagine Workday, but for a CFO is probably a better metaphor.
So Rippling, do you think Rippling's strategy of, sort of cobbling one startup on top of another, gets a little unfocused?
I think they're doing. I don't see evidence of that, let's say, in metrics or performance. I think it can be dangerous as a strategy independent of Rippling, quad Rippling. If you try to do too many things, I think that is pretty precarious. And so you have to be very judicious. And it's a function of, I use this metaphor of barrels and ammunition. It's a function of talent. You can only do the number of things you can do in parallel is dictated by the number of barrels you have in a company. And if you have 10 barrels, you can do 10 things in parallel successfully and safely. If you have 3 and you try to do 10 things, you may break everything. And so I don't know how many barrels Parker has sitting around.
And what is your read? Do you think Deal broke the law?
I'll say I used to be a litigator. I have not read the pleadings. I've not personally read the docs. Mm-hmm. From the Twitter exchange, meaning the superficial feed I see, it does look that way. But again, I have not double-clicked. I haven't had the time to double-click and read all this stuff. If I really wanted to have an opinion, I would read the documents myself and I would have a strong opinion. I'm just too busy doing other things. I'm not an investor in Deal, and I'm not really a direct, participant in Rippling. So I've just I track it, but I don't really have an opinion.
Do you think Andreessen Horowitz has really bear hugged Deal?
Yeah.
Do you think, they were the board member on Synapse? How much do you think investors need to hold a hard line against fraud, or, the lesson from Zenovitz in some way? And, I'm a defender of Parker, was always support the founder. I don't know. What are the limits of enabling?
Well, I think there's, everybody has their definition of integrity. I think that's critical. And Vinod and I did a joint podcast recently when we talked about, Jack Altman asked us directly, is there, one thing that's non-negotiable? And we both have the same response immediately. It's ethics, integrity. So I don't think you can compromise on it. For example, when Parker was pitching us for the seed round of Rippling, he only got 2 term sheets, by the way. Gary Tan and me were the only 2 term sheets. The key thing I wanted to hear, my partners wanted to hear, is what lessons did he take away from Zenovitz? That was all. We knew he'd be successful and he'd be able to get traction, and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to build product and company. But the question for us was, has he learned based upon that experience his benefits, or is he going to do the same things? And we obviously extended term sheet, so we believed that he had internalized some core lessons. It was a different person.
Let's move to AI. You've done some meaningful marketplace investments. What is the future of marketplaces in an AI era? Like, do you see these sort of agents existing in marketplaces? It feels like Silicon Valley has moved on from marketplaces.
Well, I don't think in terms of labels like marketplaces, you're right. I invested in Fair and I like marketplaces, but it's more that I found the founder fascinating. And I felt like that there's a business opportunity, and marketplace was a tactic. To me, it's not like the Bill Gurley writing about blog posts about marketplaces and I'm looking for all these marketplaces.
You're not that guy.
Yeah, like DoorDash is a marketplace in some ways, but that wasn't what resonated with me. It was like Tony, interned with me at Square. I thought Tony's phenomenal. I immediately grokked when he and Evan actually Evan Moore pitched me on what DoorDash was this is the I'm hungry button on your phone. Kind of an Andrew Mason concept. It's like, yeah, I'm hungry. I can imagine people pressing this all the time. Now, the hard part was could you deliver that food reliably across vast selection on time? But the demand was obvious, and the marketplace just is a component. So I don't really think in terms of people's labels. Even AI, which is the conventional label of the day, the du jour topic.
And you've sort of pushed back a little bit on the AI everything, or you have.
Well, 70% of my investments since I came back to KV, which is a little over 2 years, 70% of my investments are AI. But I don't look and say I want to meet AI companies. The way they deliver a value to some end customer is through the introduction of AI. And that to me is the critical part. And then there's a set of questions around, can they deliver this value sustainably, durably, given all the progress in technology, through labs and neo labs and all that stuff? Is there a durability there? But it's more to me the value proposition of what value you're creating for the world or for an industry, and then what's the secret sauce that you're using that no one else, what's the why now, and what's the sustainability, the accumulating advantages of why you can do this forever.
So let's make this tangible. You know, one company I'm excited about and you're very invested in is Rogo. Yep. We had them on stage early at Cerebral Valley.
That's true.
Explain the theory behind Rogo and what you saw.
So in the short term, I think you can think of Rogo as copilot for investment bankers. Investment bankers do a lot of grunt work. We're in New York City. A lot of people here are investment bankers. It's one of the worst jobs on the planet as far as I can tell, but it's prestigious and lots of, fancy college grads want to be iBankers. What they do all day is create presentations. That's all they do. Stitch together these presentations 24/7, turn it around and, pitch clients on here's targets for you and all that stuff. It's a lot of rote work, but glorified rote work. And these people are compensated heavily, but they work 24/7. Could you use AI to automatically generate these presentations with the proper data, with the right target list? Absolutely. And so that's what we do is we make the life of investment bankers better, more accurate, faster, and probably less expensive over time to customers.
How capable is it right now?
It's really good. I mean, there's really roughly 30 top tier investment banks in the world. I suspect we'll have almost all of them as customers.
They all want to know. They all want to make sure they're not missing something. That's not proof on its own.
One thing we do differently at Rogo, we have always cared about from the beginning since I got involved. I led the Series A. So I got involved. We care about the usage metrics. Literally MAU, DAU, kind of consumer metrics. If you're building the right product, you want the entire banking team to be using you frequently, constantly. And that's the right metric, not revenue. Revenue is a byproduct of succeeding. We don't just try to sell and then because there is a lot of budget, allocated to AI and check this out. We don't care about that. We care about DAUs, MAUs.
What's the moat to protect them from OpenAI, Acosta Investment, or Anthropic?
Great question. Gabe and I chat about this all the time. I think there's workflow moats, like the construction of what an investment banker has to do is not just leveraging ChatGPT. Yes, that can be a useful ingredient. Secondly, there's data moats. There's a lot of proprietary data in this business. I was shocked after I met Gabe of how many successful startups or companies that have hundreds of millions of dollars and are worth billions of dollars that are just proprietary financial services data. There's something like 5 to 10 of these. And I wasn't familiar with maybe all but maybe one of them. So you need access to that data. many or most of those companies are not giving it to OpenAI or Anthropic because they actually don't want to protect their own business. We actually do have the rights to use many of them through Rogo. So I think that's
what about Bloomberg?
Bloomberg, I don't think we use.
I'm sure they would resist.
Well, it's less important in different parts of banks use Bloomberg differently. The iBankers are not as addicted to Bloomberg and Bloomberg chat as some other parts of the bank.
Okay.
Or at least that's what I've been told.
Right.
I haven't been an iBanker.
Yeah.
But I had friends a lot of my friends growing up from college became iBankers.
Well, now lawyers are making big bucks. I mean, obviously you've done very well, but for a while it seemed like a foolish career if you're optimizing for money.
So literally this is the case. I started as a high-end corporate Wall Street law firm in New York City at Sullivan Cromwell. And what happened was all of the smartest corporate attorneys, transactional attorneys, became iBankers. They all wanted to go to work at Goldman because they could make so much more money. But I was a litigator, so I didn't have that option. So I had to go to tech. It was like I was a desperate height of the internet bubble, January 2000.
And was PayPal the entry point?
Well, no, I started at a company that no one remembers called voter.com. It's actually a good idea. It's involving politics, actually. Politics meets tech, so you can see why it was interesting to me. And we were trying to personalize content back in 2000. The basic concept is a lot of people, you say, are you interested in politics? More than a majority of Americans say no. But most Americans have an issue or two that they care about, a lot about. Like it could be taxes, or it could be abortion, or it could be some foreign policy, Israel, Iran, whatever the case is. So the question was, in the beginning of the internet, could you narrow cast content that people would read and consume, even if they rejected politics qua politics? So that was what we did. And we're doing a pretty good job of it, actually. And then the internet bubble occurred. And we kind of built the startup assuming capital was cheap and oxygen, and fuel would be forever available. And that changed very quickly in March 2000, and then definitely changed forever in June of 2000. And we had a very young, sharp but young 19-year-old CEO, dropout Duke. He wasn't willing to make dramatic changes, which would have been required to save the company. I still think the idea generally is conceptually pretty sound. But that was my first startup. And as that company started struggling, and I got frustrated with the CEO for not being decisive, I called up my friend Peter Thiel. And I said, hey, what do you think I should do? It was just pure advice. And he said, well, I could introduce you to a lot. The company was more on the East Coast. So I was living in Boston and DC. And Peter's like, I could introduce you to a lot of people in Silicon Valley, but why don't you just come work for us? I was like, what do you want me to do? And 6 weeks later, I had already moved to California and started in the office of PayPal.
This is a fraught question, but the PayPal mafia is all over the Epstein files with Reed and Elon fighting with each other. What do you make of the whole? What is your view on how much we should be focused on this or not?
I don't know. It's one of these, again, a topic that I have not yes, I see in my feed Elon. It's hard to miss Elon and Reed. No.
If a core question is how does the world work? You're a little closer to it than I am.
I know some of the people, not Epstein, obviously, never met him. But I read, these threads, and I don't have the time to dive into who said what about who and how true or false is it. I do need to concentrate on what I do for a living.
This is just, I feel like the answer is this is a loser to talk about. Or how can you not be curious about it? America's obsessed.
I'm curious, but as an amateur, right. Pure amateur.
Right.
And I think some of the stuff with Elon and Reed going back and forth as an amateur, I can't tell the difference.
Right.
I have opinions on some things I've read in the news about Epstein, but it's more just I have opinions about anything else in the news.
How it gets to how sincere is some of the fighting on Twitter, right?
That's a fair question.
Because it feels like one of the main topics that they're just weaponizing against each other because it's mutually assured destruction, or they, instead of mutually assured destruction where they would stay away from it, now it's everybody has put their foot on the gas and is just throwing accusations around fairly
I think that has changed. The dynamic seems to be very common. On that dynamic.
Are you out on Reed? I feel like it used to be there was sort of a friendly relationship between the right-wing members of the PayPal mafia.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with Reed. He has, in my opinion, the wrong views on many topics, but I also think he's very good at what he does. He's funded some things that I think are a mistake. And, as he looks back on his life, he'll realize he probably shouldn't have funded. But like lots of people have wrong views and sometimes they have epiphanies.
Right.
Like sometimes people wake up and realize, like I used to think X and now I think Y. Like this happens to people. So I'm somewhat optimistic.
This is, I grew up in Macon, Georgia, and, I had all these Christian friends when I was an atheist. And I'd be like, how can you think I'm going to go to hell? And they'd say, well, we think you're going to convert. You're going to be saved. That's sort of what you're saying.
Yeah, well, so
I'm holding out for his soul to be redeemed someday.
Yeah, so so I grew up actually the opposite way. I don't know if you know this. My parents were pretty liberal. They were like the impeach Nixon people running around. I was like, if you watch the old...
My parents were liberal, to be clear.
Have you ever seen Alex Keaton in Family Ties growing up?
No.
This is a great TV show about this like conservative, preppy kid with like hippie parents. That was like my family growing up. So, I do think people do change, though. I have seen important people in my life evolve their views. And one of the reasons why I proselytize, about topics, politics, whatever, is occasionally you say something that resonates. And that's a big deal. Like, so for example, I'll tell you how I became a conservative. It's kind of interesting. I remember listening to my parents about all these views. And then Ronald Reagan got elected. And they were convinced that he was going to blow up the world. They're convinced that he hated Jewish people. And then he got elected.
Are you Jewish? I don't actually
know.
I'm, okay. My wife
extremely Jewish.
Okay.
Meaning like very.
My daughter is now Jewish, so yeah. Anyway, I'll be one of those people saying that.
But so they had all these views about Reagan. Literally, he was going to have a nuclear, Armageddon, and like this guy. Anyway, he got elected, and like on day one, everything started getting better. The hostages got returned from Iran. The economy started growing. Blah blah blah. America was back. We won the hockey game. All this stuff. So I was like,
that's a story. Like,
so
wasn't it
this is literally what happened to me.
The hostages got returned when he came back.
It was because they were afraid of Reagan. Like the Iranians were like, he's gonna bomb us.
He's a bad guy.
No, they were like, he's gonna bomb us. He's not fucking around. It's a little bit like what they're gonna see about Trump. Like Trump's not screwing around. Like
with Iran. Right?
Yeah, that regime is gonna end. It's just a question of how painful is it, and like, period. Like,
it's going on for a long time. Like, to bite on Iran specifically. There's a funny dynamic on Twitter, which is like people like Josh Wolf being, why isn't the left talking about this more? Which I don't understand what we're supposed to be calling for. Like,
well, it's a good question of what you should do, but it is absolutely the case that the current government is slaughtering innocent people.
Right, it's terrible.
And so like, but the same people who are whining about other topics seem to be very,
but
very
normally
quiet.
You whine in America when you're trying to move the American regime. What are we supposed to whine about on Iran?
Well, I do think people should be protesting. Like, there's official organizations that are supposed to protect civilians. They were very critical of the other parts of the Middle East, and suddenly they're all dead silent. Like, there's no protests at campuses, there's no celebrities wearing pins, none of this. It is a little interesting. I'd argue it's because of anti-Semitism and a bunch of other reasons, but like fundamentally, Josh isn't wrong at all. I still think, though, that doesn't give you the answer, which is, what are you going to do? And I actually think this is a challenge for the administration. Like, I know many of the people in the administration, and
your husband is in the administration.
Yeah, he doesn't work directly on this specific.
But you
problem.
are close to it.
But I know most.
You know Vance pretty well.
Yeah, I know JD. I just had JD over for dinner, and so I know Marco, and I think he's phenomenal too, and I know Scott, and I think these are all great people. They're working on this, but if they ask me, sometimes when friends of mine ask me, I have an idea. Like, here's what you should do. They ask me exactly what to do here. I'm not so sure I have the right
You're
answer.
Like, I'm a dumb tech guy. I don't know anything.
No.
You're like, I would never say that.
No, but I do have ideas. Like, if you said, what would you do about healthcare? I have some ideas. Or if you said, like, for example, on Iran, I do have one specific idea that I think Trump should have done like a month ago is he should have absolutely, he said, stop murdering protesters. He should have said, you also must turn on the internet now. Like, he should have coupled the two. And like, I think it would have been effective, and then it would have been like transparent of like what's going on, and it would have been harder for them to mask all the atrocities.
But they have still been killing protesters.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's not like he enforced the red line.
They're going to take action. Like, I just think that it was a question of what action to take. Like, that would be effective as opposed to taking action for action's sake. Like, I think one thing the administration has done that's very impressive, actually, is many of us studied poli-sci and things like that growing up. And we'd learn you take all these classes on the lessons of Vietnam and, the more modern lessons from like other interventions, and a lot of those did not go well. this administration, before they took action in Venezuela, literally consciously sat down and said, all the mistakes that were made in the last 30 or 40 years, what were the root causes? And then how do we avoid them? And they have a checklist of like, here's the things that
like
were
first principles thing.
well, like at least try. Like at least what
Sure.
can we learn from mistakes that the country has made?
Certainly.
So at least we don't repeat the same mistakes. And then try to apply that to what are we going to do in Venezuela? I think they're trying to, and we'll see whether they do successfully, figure out what went wrong with other interventions and wars, and then how could you apply that to Iran to have a more successful outcome? And again, we'll see, but it's not easy. It's not like, oh, just put this troop there or just put that thing there. So we'll see what they eventually do.
But I like the psychological journey we were going on. You had liberal parents. They told you the sky was going to fall. It didn't fall.
And I was like, well, maybe they're wrong about everything. And I started more they wrong about foreign policy first, actually. And then,
As more interventionist at the time?
yeah. Like
you supported the war in Iraq. You must have.
Basically.
I don't know that specifically about you, but just given your
but
political...
directionally, probably at the time, like I don't think I ever explicitly commented on it, but like probably yes.
Clearly.
Like I think it's a fair like the people. Let's put it this way: the people in power were people I supported.
Right. I mean, Trump came in obviously sort of being anti-interventionist and now is interventionist.
Well, I think that's somewhat, let's say, superficial and not in a dismissive way to you, but just like a lot of people focus on a couple of his statements. He's an old school. My view is he's an old school Teddy Roosevelt meets McKinley.
I've heard you say this, yeah.
Yeah,
Explain
and he's very Teddy Roosevelt was very interventionist, but defined to a smaller set of
Our
things.
domain.
Like, I'm going to care about this, and if I care about this, you're screwed. like you do not like. But I'm not going to try to do everything and fix the world in every possible place simultaneously. But if I tell you don't do that, you don't want to do that. That's like Trump, more like Trump, but more like the big stick. The famous thing about Kerry that speak softly. Trump doesn't follow the speak softly part, but the big stick definitely part. And so in the territorial expansion from McKinley, like Stewart's Folly on down and Louisiana Purchase, like this country was built on territorial expansion. Actually, people also forgot that. So I don't think Trump is like.
You want us to take Greenland?
Oh, definitely. I mean, not take. Well, no. So let's be careful. We definitely need to have strategic assets and leverage.
Well, we already had that. We could put bases in Greenland.
So let me give you an example.
And Trump is talking about making it U.S. territory.
Yeah, well, let me give you a very specific illustration of sometimes why the media doesn't communicate things well. So they say, okay, we already had the bases, or we have the right to the bases, or whatever. The truth is, when you have a base somewhere, and we learn this in the Middle East all the time. If you want to read about it, read about Qatar or Turkey air bases. We have bases in both. If you just have a base, you need the host country's permission to use that for an active operation. So Turkey can say no, even though we have a base there. You can't use our airspace to fly your planes. Or Qatar can say no, and for a lot of regional reasons, they often do. Mm-hmm. If you have actual sovereignty on the base, Denmark or Greenland cannot say no to the U.S. launching a military operation, and that is indispensable, and it's very different. And so I think that is fundamental.
Secondly, we've never had an issue with NATO reject. NATO is not stopping us from doing what we want to do.
Some of the countries are a little soft. Like Turkey's technically a NATO country, so actually, yes, false.
But we're creating
That's actually
some of the drama. NATO as an institution. I didn't say there hasn't been a NATO country that's caused us like difficulty.
Turkey?
I said I did not say that. I did not say that about an individual NATO country.
Turkey's a classic illustration.
But sure, but NATO as an organization is like controlled by the United States. It's a vehicle for the United States.
Well, we're not technically controlling it. But so that's one thing is we definitely need military control of some bases there, especially because as the Arctic has melted, like the Russia, you see those plots people have on the internet of like where the missiles go, where the subs go. So we definitely need to stop that. Second, the other big initiative for this administration is supply chain for minerals. Like China's been using that as a very aggressive, like sort of piece of leverage against the United States. And so from JD on down to Jacob are working on mineral supply chain. Greenland has some minerals, and we definitely need access to that. There are lots of other ways to get access to it. You don't have to like take over the country or anything. He was never going to invade the country. That was like silly. Like that was not going to happen. But it is, in my view, it is perfectly fine to use economic leverage to achieve goals. Like if we have the biggest economy in the world and it's growing the fastest, we can definitely tell other countries
isn't it
that.
a loser to alienate Europe? Like it's useful
Well,
to have
Europe's
Europe as a
alienating us.
Well, that's
Yeah, JD's more right than wrong about this. Meaning like Europe is harassing Jews. So if you're a Jewish person in the UK, in France, you need to get out like now. Like this is really bad. Like I hope we do things to encourage those people to move to the United States so they're safe. Second, they are cracking down on US companies like X and harassing them or, and that's going to have to stop. Like we are going to use this administration is going to use what Jacob likes to call economic statecraft, which is we're going to use our economy.
European treatment of Jewish people, but we're getting closer and closer to the Middle East, which has been extremely hostile.
Well, I think the whole point is like we're going to have more Abraham-esque accords.
But it's like a different set of standards for one country from the other, which is supposed to be what.
Well, you'd be safer in Israel than in Europe by far.
Sure, in Israel, if you're.
You'd be safer in the UAE, actually, as a Jewish person than in any European country. I'm pretty sure of that.
What's safe is
very
loose.
I would travel to the UAE without security. I would not travel to Paris without security.
Really? You wouldn't go to Paris?
100%. No.
Like you're worried you're going to get kidnapped or what's going
to I would. If people identified me as a Jew, you could not wear a yarmulke like in Paris at all. You will definitely be assaulted. Like everybody is terrified. Jewish star. Like I would not walk down the streets of London or Paris with a Jewish star. I would definitely wear one in the UAE. And maybe even Saudi Arabia. I don't know that for a fact.
My wife is, pretty clearly Jewish. We spent 2 weeks in Paris.
Did she wear
it doesn't, I don't want to speak. It's an awkward subject because I don't want to speak for how other people feel afraid. The liberal in me comes out not telling.
I'll tell you, Jacob's mom left Paris. They were born and raised, lived in Paris forever, and they had to escape. They literally had to move just because of the anti-Semitism. So you're going to see.
So we give up the European alliance now. We're just breaking it. We're breaking. We're moving on from that.
Or rethink their first principles of what values do they support? Like, do they believe in free speech or not? That's a fundamental tenet of the United States.
Is it?
Yes.
All right. I wanted to get to free speech. I honestly was surprised free speech wasn't sort of a core drive. That foreign policy was sort of the first starter.
Well, there wasn't this libertarian, authoritarian suppression of free speech back when I was growing up. If you're a liberal, class liberal, the ACLU and all these people were very pro speech. They were the ones suing Illinois to let the Nazis protest.
Right, it was the left wing.
The left wing was more free speech.
Right.
So there wasn't this authoritarian, we're going to stop and suppress ideas we don't like. It didn't really exist, certainly not from the left. So
and therefore you didn't need to. But you.
Therefore, it wasn't.
I'm not trying to drag this up, but you obviously had a very famous example where you used a word.
Yeah.
And you said it was about testing the borders of free speech.
Well, Stanford was very different. So I grew up in high school and college before. There was no constraints on speech. No one even thought this was a good idea. Then all of a sudden you show up at Stanford and everybody's on this crusade to crack down on ideas that were not what we used to call back then. The term was multicultural.
Right.
It's changed various vocabulary, but that was a rude awakening. I'd never even seen people that thought that way. But there was Stanford in the 80s was at the cutting edge of the woke movement. We didn't call it that back then, but it was. And, I was pretty resistant to that. But, and so were, several of my friends who, went on to do interesting things. But yeah.
But they called for a lot. What David Sachs and Peter Thiel wrote out against date rape. There are a lot of things that they have sort of disavowed.
So David wrote an article, honestly, I personally have not read that in 30 years, so I don't.
For someone who gets you get very schooled on the issues you want to talk about.
Sure. Well, exactly. I talk about things I know something about. You want to talk about Iran? I know a decent amount about it. You want to talk about the Middle East? I know a decent amount about it.
Sure.
You want to talk about persecution of Jewish people? I know a lot about it.
Sure.
There's a billion topics. So yes, when I was young, I used to read the encyclopedia, literally cover to cover.
Yeah.
That's what we do for fun. Read every volume.
Early language model.
I don't have time. I serve on 16 boards. I don't have time to read every issue.
All right, let's drill in on free speech. I won't make you litigate what David said many years ago.
No, but we did at the Stanford Review. We wrote anti-multicultural things without a doubt. And I think with the benefit of history, look, lots of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds will write things that don't look perfect with the benefit of history. But I think there's going to be a lot of things the Stanford Review published that look great. Like I wrote a piece like for Stanford Review on the brilliance of Ronald Reagan's foreign policy. That was my first piece. That's its title.
Again?
The brilliance of Ronald Reagan's foreign policy.
Oh.
That looks profound. Like this was when the Cold War was at its height. And I was like, Ronald Reagan's going to fix this. He did.
Do you want the United States to have a policy of basically letting white immigrants into the United States and not other races?
My views on this it has nothing to do with race. It is a pure talent question. I think the most talented people on the planet, we should admit to the United States, wherever they're from. Like whether it's an O1 visa or whatever you want to call it. Like we need to be a magnet for talent.
But we're letting, white South Africans come. It does feel like we're targeting
there is
Somalians.
a political asylum question there, which also might be relevant to the Jewish people. Like if you're persecuted and fear death, like we may grant asylum.
But I think at some point you look at what the Trump administration is doing, it feels like they are preferencing white people.
I don't think that. And I think they also you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression was that they let in 37 people.
Right. I mean, but a lot of these things
talk
become...
about 16 million illegal immigrants against 37 people. Which one should we be focused on? I think it's 37 people.
The Trump administration does not want to... They're not like really supporting H-1B visas particularly.
There's controversy within the administration. I think there's people who are more enthusiastic about a magnet for talent.
J.D. Vance is moving away from that.
I think so. I think there's a lot of pressure on reducing. There's definitely been abuses of H-1B visas where there has been a clear substitution.
But like to the extent Tech was misled about what Trump was going to do. I mean, he goes on the All In podcast. He's like, we're going to give everyone. And then it isn't happening. Like we're a year in.
Well, we're a year in a 4. He has accomplished almost everything else in year 1, which is very impressive.
Oh
he
my
fixed
God.
the economy,
terrorizing
fixed the deficit.
Minnesota. The economy is not
terrorizing
Minnesota. He said he was going to bring down inflation, not like
it is. There's no inflation. Look at true inflation. It's like we're much.
We'll go. We can go to the economy.
I use true inflation. But
this is.
Yes,
H-1B visas, O-1 visas.
I personally think we should expand O-1 visas, like probably 3x them.
Right.
That's my opinion.
That is something we are aligned on.
Great.
I want immigration of all sorts, but
sometimes
certainly elite immigration.
Sometimes people tweet at me like, "Oh, you just repeat whatever the administration." No, like I actually think we should triple O-1 visas.
It doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
We'll see. I mean, I think the administration does definitely want to fix lots. Everybody, like on all sides of the spectrum, thinks our immigration process is a mess. Like, can you meet anybody who's like, oh, this is the system we should have? So the question is, can you create an alliance of people who want to fix this and this to get enough votes to change that? But I think Trump, as he said on All In, is more progressive about bringing talented people to the United States. Now, there is a tricky issue with the CCP. China has been sending people here. And there clearly have been examples of imported material espionage. And so I think that poses another a layer to this of what are we going to do about the CCP sending people here designed to conduct industrial or otherwise espionage. So that's also a very complicated issue.
Sure, that's
issue. But it's complicated. And then so let's talk about immigration. You want to talk about crazy immigration? We currently have allowed, and maybe in the last month this has changed, but as of a month ago, this was not true. You could, as an Iranian citizen, go study nuclear physics at MIT. I know this is a fact. That's insane. Why we are educating the nuclear physicists of Iran
but we should
to
want
build
them all
bombs.
to stay. We should want them to stay here, right?
Well, maybe.
To me, the problem is we didn't figure out a way to keep people.
I don't know that citizens of an enemy state, like Iran is technically an enemy state, foreign adversary defined in law by Congress.
Sure.
Codified,
I feel like you're bringing up a lot of edge cases.
But no, but this is the
when
complexity.
They're failing to deliver on the core.
They are delivering on the core thing. The core thing they ran on is we were going to shut down the southern border. Day 1, fixed. Like literally fixed.
Obama, there were fewer illegal immigrations during Obama than the Trump administration.
No. 0. What Obama claims credit for, and I can walk you through the stats here, is he said we had more deportations. The reason he can claim that, the stat is very misleading, but here's the definition he's using. If you tried to be an illegal immigrant and come from Mexico during the Obama administration, if they caught you and they turned you around, they called that a deportation. The current definition is if you're in the interior of the United States, so Obama had many more stop you, but they counted that statistically. it's true that they did actually turn you around, so it's not a bad thing. But the statistics are apples and oranges, and everybody who studied this would agree with me.
Okay.
Like this is they're both good. I mean, Obama, like, look, if you read Clinton's speeches on immigration or Obama's speeches on immigration, they sound like Trump. Like, this is a very modern change in the liberal Democratic Party, their views on immigration.
I think people could accept certainly freezing the border.
Yeah.
I think the interior work. I mean, you were a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you understand that there are lots of laws that people aren't following. Speeding, whatever.
Speeding is the criticize.
And then there are people with green cards that we have the right to revoke, but then there's no reason to like scare the shit out of them. When they were allowed to be here, they had a green card, or they had some other
to be here as long as
sure, but like they didn't break any sort of agreement with the United States.
We do have different rules on green cards. Like Rubio talks about this a lot. If you're a guest, you don't have the same rights as the person who owns the home. And I think we stopped enforcing that, and Rubio and the State Department is enforcing that. So if you're on a green card, your ability to criticize the United States is different than an American citizen. And I think that's very reasonable.
It creates a terrible free speech culture in the United States.
Not necessarily.
The woman, by the way, I think you had sort of pushed back on the idea that the woman who was pushed out of the United States over op-ed, that it was just the op-ed, and then evidence did come out that it was just the op-ed. Do you concede that one?
No, actually.
There was an update on that. There was an update on that.
Send me the evidence and I'll look at it. But I do think Marco's right. We have a scarce number of green cards, and we should choose, and it's perfectly proper to choose people who support the United States to allocate the green cards to. I don't think you can do that for American citizens. You shouldn't. The government shouldn't choose. But the government does have discretionary rights for people who are visitors, just like at your dinner guest.
But we're creating a culture.
You don't have a right to a green card.
You have to sort of have fidelity to the Republican Trump administration right now.
No.
It's do you align with their views? They want to be able to scrub the social media of people coming into the United States.
If you're cheering
that is insane.
No, it's not insane.
It's insane in the context of an administration that very much cares about fidelity to a specific leader.
Well, that's your interpretation.
You don't think that's what all your business friends are doing? Tim Cook is literally bringing him like golden gifts. Okay, you cannot pretend that kissing up to Trump is the order of the day.
Hunter Biden?
Hunter Biden that had like a small random contract. You don't
with the CCP.
You deny that like business leaders today obviously see, and we're starting to see this break because we literally just saw.
I don't think it's going to break, but like keep going.
Business leaders feel like they need to cozy up to a Trump in a way that is unprecedented in modern American history.
I think business leaders in tech feel the need to cozy up to Trump, but let me explain why. They all spent infinite amount of money in 2016 and 20, depending on which year, and sometimes both, funding Democratic opposition. And I don't think a successful CEO should be that binary with their money, like across an organization. Google, 98% of all contribution went to Democrats. That is not acceptable. And so they do need to do some correction to that. Facebook, Mark spent $600K personally trying to elect Joe Biden. You can't do that without creating enemies. So I think some of it is a recalibration. So I think, show me how many tech executives or how many tech companies can you find that had 70% or more greater Republican contributions?
But some of these were just employees. Like employees are allowed to be left wing.
Well, you are allowed to be left wing, but I think if you're going to engage,
you are. I guess this is.
Well, you got to be careful then. Like I don't think
the government is going to come after you.
Well, you don't.
That is not the free enterprise Republican Party.
You can't be an ideological supporter as a company. And so for example, there's lots of companies in New York, Fortune 500. Would Citibank ever give 90% of its money just to one side? No.
But you're talking about the employee donations.
Yes, but it's through a PAC, so it's organized.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
But the ones you were saying about tech companies are about employee donations.
100%. Depends on what data set you're looking at. But the company does have usually organized as a PAC, at least for their leadership. And so it's not totally just random atoms. I agree the random atoms is slightly different than when the company orchestrates it. But if the company orchestrates, then you have to be a little bit more judicious.
We agree they're dancing for Trump. So you think they have to make up for past sort of liberal...
Some definitely have to make up for sins. If you try... you could argue...
People are literally getting pardoned for criminal acts based on just showing up at Mar-a-Lago. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I don't think that's actually true.
You don't think we have a major pardon issue going on in the United States right now?
Well, I do think like
we have corrupt pardons.
Here's a bipartisan comment. I think we need to reform the pardon system. Like you saw what Biden did. I think everybody found that outrageous.
Pardoning himself when clearly Trump was going to go for retribution.
Well, who indicted Trump on all these completely fake charges? Fake. Every single one of them has been thrown out. Every single one, and they're all like, as a lawyer and as a litigator, I know this stuff well.
They've been thrown out because the new Justice Department came in and threw them out.
No, judges ultimately threw them out. Like so, the New York State one, the Justice Department had nothing to do. The New York State Court of Appeals, which is all liberals, it's 100% liberal.
They threw it out because he is now the president, and it was going to make it so untenable.
They made this shit up. Like so, let's talk about New York. I happen to know this well. They changed the statute of limitations. Then they took a paper offense, which is typically a misdemeanor, and said, we're going to now change the law. So if you have this paper records offense, and we're changing the statute of limitations so we can go back to this paper he might have filed. Right. We're going to now change it into a crime. But this is
New York is, yes.
Or Georgia. Same thing in Georgia.
The key one is the independent prosecutor, the special appointee.
Well, I think
that, those were legitimate. The confidential classified documents handling was... And he was definitely obstructing. Like those things were happening.
Oh, you mean like unlike Joe Biden, both as vice president and president?
But he proactively returned them. It was once there was there are legal standards. There are different things.
Like Hillary Clinton. Hillary had all these documents.
You're just throwing out. What about?
No, but like, what I'm saying with that is like, look, if politicians of both parties do something, it's unfair to harass and prosecute. What
is your take on the $500 million going to Trump's crypto company?
That's stupid. Like he shouldn't have done that.
It's huge.
I know it's stupid.
Such a stupid
like, so,
$500 million.
See, I'm neutral. Like I don't think they should do that. Like I just told you.
But it is a scale of corruption never seen in American history.
Well, I think you should.
You're ruining
read history a little bit. But like Harding, I'm sure had like if you were just for inflation,
and maybe Johnson getting elected.
I don't even know if it's corruption. I just don't think the optics are a good idea. Like I think if they're going to be president focused on achieving things, why bother with the distraction? Like that's my opinion.
It's ruining capitalism. Like it's creating a world where fraud wins.
But let me give you the pushback. If you were like a MAGA conservative and you want to push back, you say of all the modern presidents, the only one who became less wealthy by being in office is Donald Trump. Every other president became more wealthy after being president. So it's actually true. Like,
so he should get wealthy while he's president?
Well, no, but like the point is he's actually gone down in net worth because he served. Every other president, Obama went from like 200K to 200 million. Like this is very common.
I don't know if this is still true. This 500 million is a lot of wealth for him.
Well, does it go to all the who does it go to? I don't know. Like
it's a lot.
Anyway, I don't think they should have done it. I don't think whoever made the decision, I don't think it's a distraction from achieving things.
Are you still a China hawk?
Yes.
And the Trump administration is giving China our most valuable AI
Well, powers. There's debate within the administration, as you can see.
Is that's happening, right?
Well, no, it's not approved. It's not approved. Like they don't have to sign up.
What's your prediction?
I don't think they're going to get the chips.
Oh, really?
Oh, I personally hope they don't get the chips.
Is this wish casting or knowledge?
No, I think there's it has been delayed. So there's a number of people who have to sign off on this stuff. There's like a review process, and you're right. Correctly stating that the Trump administration gave the first level blessing, but there's several other departments that have to sign off on that, and that hasn't happened yet. To
the number one thing, if you were China hawk, you would not want them to have.
I agree with you.
It is the most China dovish thing you could do.
I agree with you. David Sachs is very smart and very knowledgeable, has a completely different perspective. You should debate it with David.
David and I are, I'm happy. David, come on the podcast.
He should. He should. He can articulate his view. I understand his view. I don't agree with his view, and that's fine. Like, we can both be conservatives and debate it.
Right.
But he has a very strong perspective that has logic to it. He's super sharp. Jensen and David's views are very strong. I happen to have a different view, and I'm willing to critique it.
I think we should have, a globalist policy, but I think we should extract from China. Facebook should be able to operate there.
I think we need to. I personally am a China hawk. I believe that we need to lock down dual-use technology for lots of reasons with respect to China and the CCP. But I understand friends of mine in the administration have slightly more nuanced or different perspectives on this. And, that's what they're empowered to do. But I have my personal views are similar to yours.
A lot of this, I mean, the corruption I think is terrible. Chips, foreign policy, people can disagree. But
it's very debatable. It's very complicated.
I think saying no innocent person was involved with Alex Pretti I thought that was pretty dark.
Well, you can, but it's obvious he was an agitator.
Agitator free, protest assembly
that was not a
is
protest.
part.
You're just lying to your readers.
And
that's a protest.
Readers let's talk about it.
Yeah. That was not a protest. That was an organized obstruction of an ICE operation. There was no protesters. So if you want to neutral,
they're observers. I wrote in Newcomer that we just lived through this era where people like Elon were calling for independent media,
you're right.
Citizen journalists, and here he is. He's recording what's happening.
He's recording, and then
with his phone.
No. In the first video, he's not recording. He's fucking kicking. So you admit he's like 2 weeks before he was an agitator. Now he's innocent.
Now you're just like, he's a wreck. You don't get shot for that. Like this is America.
You do.
This is America. You do get shot.
So. What city do you live in? What city do you live in?
This city.
Okay, you live in New York City. Go downstairs, walking up to any New York police officer, literally anyone. You can sample however you want. Go to 5. It's actually better than 1. 3 to 5. And ask them what they would have done differently. And you're going to be shocked. They actually acted, they don't like the result. Like, just to be clear, let's be totally clear. The result was very unfortunate. The process, if you ask any police officer in an urban city what they trained and what they would have done in the exact circumstance.
People in use of force are always going to have a very forgiving attitude towards people having to make calls.
But I've watched this happen. This happened in Miami. So I was in Miami the week after, and I watched my neighbors talking to her. People love the police in New York, in Miami. We have a really great police force and
I'm sorry.
But anyway, so I watched my neighbors actually talking.
This whole argument could still be made, and he could still be innocent.
Well, innocent, he was a felon. Innocent from a perspective of should you be shot, I'm not debating that with you. But some people...
You don't think he should have been shot?
No. But I do know that...
And do you think he gave them cause to be shot?
Yes.
By carrying a weapon?
No, definitely not. But you cannot... The first thing you learn, do you grow up in a city too?
I grew up in Macon, Georgia, which actually has a high crime rate.
Yeah, okay, great. One of the first things you learn is you do not get in a violent altercation with police under any circumstance. Like this is one of the reasons why minorities have not supported, the protests in Minnesota, is they all know that they tell their kids at 7 years old, if the police pull you over, do not get in a fight. Like that's the first thing you learn as a kid in an urban environment. He clearly resisted arrest. Now, being armed when you're resisting arrest is amplifying.
He'd been in the vicinity of pepper spray.
Yeah, but he was still fighting.
And there were 6 of them.
No, I know.
They'd taken his gun.
That's not how.
And they shot him in the back.
No, they shot him in the front.
No, they shot him in the back.
But the officer, the only legal question is really simple, and we'll eventually get to the bottom of this. This will eventually become out in the public domain. Is did the officers who fired the shots, the 2 that fired the shots apparently, did they know the gun was taken away or not?
They're certainly going to say they didn't know.
Well, no, but you'll be able to tell. I don't know if they
you need to be threatened. They were not being threatened.
No, you don't have to be threatened as a police officer. That's false. That is not the correct argument. That is not legally true. You do not, like the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. Like literally, this is not the standard. But if they knew he didn't have a weapon, that would be totally different. The Supreme Court ruled
that you need to bring in like the totality of the circumstances that have happened, and that is not what happened here. There was not. He wasn't threatening them. He was recording, and then he helped pick up a woman from the street.
Anybody who
what did he do? What did he do? What was the core thing?
He was violently resisting arrest. You cannot do that. Period.
He was
absolutely.
There were 6 on 1. Like
he was still resisting. He was still resisting.
Intentionally tells people you drive this way,
this wasn't even
way.
ICE. This was border control.
So I know that's true.
Exactly.
That is true.
You guys just keep making stuff up. Every fact is made up.
It has just become an American convention that the people doing border control are ICE.
We'll just blame ICE because we don't like ICE.
If that is the territory where you can find some win, if that's the ground you can find some win to defend yourself, that is such a small piece of this.
The issue is very simple and straightforward. If the officers had
the border patrol authorized by Trump shot an American in the back doing the most patriotic thing he could, which is observing the totalitarian use of authority.
He was in the middle of a street.
He is a patriot.
No, he's not a patriot.
Yes.
Nobody believes this. And when we release,
yes, I sincerely believe
you're
it.
going to look so fucking stupid when we release his signal chats. Like this was an
Oh my
orchestrated.
God. The idea that, yes, of course they're following ICE.
No, they're not following ICE. He was in the middle of the street interfering with operation. That is a felony. It's actually punished by 8 to 9 years. That offense before resisting arrest, which has a 20-year.
Interfering by picking someone up.
No, if you're in the middle of the street, you cannot.
He was on the sidewalk when they.
Look,
they
let's
have the
do it.
video.
Let's do a thought experiment. If right downstairs we go down the studio, and the New York Police Department, is trying to arrest somebody, and either one of us, white, all American, whatever, goes in the middle of the street while the New York Police Department is trying to arrest somebody. Will those officers grab us violently? Absolutely, 100%
Sure,
of the time.
but they shouldn't shoot him.
Well, they
should not shoot
The next
him.
thing that
That
would
is
happen.
the
No,
standard.
let's follow this through. Like the thought experiment's worth doing. They shouldn't shoot us. Depending on how we react when they throw us down violently, they might. Not intentionally, but they might. Like if one of us were to grab, if one of us were to grab.
You think I don't have this positive view of the police as like the right bar for authority.
So I do.
Okay, so I think this exceeds what the police would do. There was a great video that is like, if ICE came to New York, at least it's like, I feel like the NYPD would stand up for us because they're like, we're the ones that are supposed to shoot New Yorkers, not ICE.
Oh my God, you have such a distorted view of police.
You should be anti-authoritarian. You're in tech. Why are you? I feel like fundamentally what I don't understand is why do you like authority?
I like law and order.
You're supposed to be a disruptor.
I am a disruptor, but you don't get to violate the law. If you do,
the law is Trump today.
The people are learning the wrong lessons. So let's talk about my parents in the 60s and 70s. When they didn't like the law, what did the Vietnam people do?
Protest.
They protested.
Wrote songs, created music.
And they were willing to get arrested. Martin Luther King.
Sure.
Like, civil rights, I'm going to get arrested. I'm not going to resist arrest. So the way to show a law is unfair or wrong or whatever your perspective is more like the 1960s and 70s. I would support that. But like fighting against police is a very bad idea.
I just think it is very hard to comply with 6 officers at once putting pressure on your body.
This is how you comply. Like literally, tell me you don't know a 4-year-old kid that
I
knows
just think
that
you're getting
do you know any
sprayed.
4-year-old?
They're attacking you. Your body is barely in control.
As soon as a police officer confronts you, if you're in a car, you put your hands on the steering wheel and the hands visible on the steering wheel. You learn that first thing at driver ed, like literally sophomore year of high school. Then if you're not, if the police confronts you and it looks like they're agitated, what do you do?
You agree that they're in Minnesota because Minnesota is politically hostile to Trump?
No, I think it depends how definition here. Politically hostile meaning they're not actively turning over criminals to ICE. I'd agree with that. Is true.
They wanted them out of like prison.
Yeah, they want them.
And they're also making claims that they're not in prison when they are.
Yeah, I don't totally understand that, but like fundamentally, I do agree with you that the extra officers in Minnesota are because Minnesota decided, for whatever set of reasons, to not take the criminals in the prison and just hand them over, which is the historical precedent. Even under Obama, like this came out recently, that Obama used to have actually an ICE agent in every prison, like literally sitting in the prison waiting for them. So like, again, people are being somewhat hypocritical here. Like, so here's another example. Okay, so you don't like the shooting of an American. Like, let's do it. So where were you in the Obama administration? ICE under Obama shot 59 citizens, or 59 people. 23 died.
Right.
So that's like 10x the amount have died under the Trump administration. Where were you complaining? Where were your friends?
I mean, obviously,
nobody was.
Obviously, incidents become symbolic.
Yeah, sure.
So, I
agree.
I totally own that this is a representative of a bunch of themes happening in the United States. And some of these themes we focus on and some we don't.
Hypocrisy.
But I am not.
It's okay if Obama does it. It's great if Obama does it, but if Trump does the same thing.
I support abolishing ICE. So you're I'm happy to say that.
John Lott is
it's an institution that's
John
lost
Lott's
all
a famous
credibility.
Chicago professor. Does stats about crime mostly. He published the stats about the error rate of Trump's ICE, like how many times have they made a mistake of any type, and then the error rate under Obama using the same stats. Trump's ICE is 5x less error prone.
I saw a stat that the immigration officials in Minnesota had committed more crimes than like the immigrants in the same period of time.
I doubt that. I doubt that. I mean, look. So you should look, and one of the things the administration is getting better at is these people they're deporting are really bad. Like these are like child
op-ed writers.
No,
They literally have
these
they're leaving
the
people
criminals
in the middle of the
you
street
should
in the
read-
cold. They're abducting 5-year-old children.
They're not abducting 5-year-old children. I mean, like that. Someone should sue you for that.
Why?
Because you know what happened? Do you actually know what happened?
Tell me
in that
what
story?
happened.
Yes. So they were arresting correctly or deporting correctly a father who was illegal and a criminal, like a bad criminal. He had a 5-year-old in the house. They asked the mom, would she take care of him? And she said no. So what are they going to do? You have to get rid of the criminal. And the mom says, I don't want my 5-year-old. So you know what they did? They picked up the 5-year-old and put him in the library. Like this is literally what happened.
What kind of
and
speech culture are you encouraging?
You're lying to
they
the American
had
people.
a 5-year-old. Like
they only had a 5-year-old because the mom said, I won't take care of him. The mom literally said
They're
no.
creating the circumstances of these immediate seizures.
Well, you know what happened in New York City? Imagine we go downstairs again. And I'm a mom with a 5-year-old, and I run away and say, I don't want my 5-year-old.
Do you really
the
want
mom
to
would get arrested
like,
right away.
Don't you think just this sort of like hair trigger, people should be sued over speech, is a deterrent to free speech in the United States?
100. So
you said it just now that I should be sued for it.
Where were you in the Biden administration when they lost 139,000 kids? They literally lost 139,000 kids. Where were you? If you're worried about one 5-year-old, there's 139,000 people that somehow are kids were running around.
I think it's insane to be upset that we're mad about the optical situation when Trump is doing everything he can to highlight that he's taking an aggressive stance in interior states. Like
why do you
he
think,
is creating he's painting a picture
but that's false.
to be responded
that's false.
to.
Like, let's look at Texas. So there's 10x or more deportations from Texas than Minnesota. 0 incidents. You know why? Because the Texas...
No, they're not running around trying to make a scene in Texas. I would love that.
Exactly.
I'd love them to show the same attitude that they're doing in Minnesota, where they have people terrorizing the community in Texas, and let the people of Texas get a taste of what's going on. Though obviously, I would feel terrible for the actual immigrants that would be affected.
You can protest on the sidewalks. You cannot interfere.
He was on the sidewalk with the video
he was in
camera.
the middle of the street obstructing traffic.
You suggested on Twitter that Vinod Khosla wasn't your boss. He's your boss.
Not really. He would say he's not.
He has hiring, firing power. He's the.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I haven't read our LP agreement in a while, but I don't think it actually works that way.
I find it hard to believe the guy on you guys are peers, or
yeah. I mean, he's like default, but actually in practice, Samir actually runs day to day at KV.
I appreciate you going back and forth. I need to ask about Opendoor because there's a set of people. I don't cover the public markets, but obviously, I feel like there's some people watching this show. It's like, oh, you have
Opendoor. You can't. You
haven't asked about it.
I can't go anywhere without talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Opendoor,
What's the turnaround plan, man? Yeah. They want these shares going up. Is it still a meme stock? Well,
it was never a meme stock. What it was is there were retail investors, normal people, could see the vision and the upside potential of the company better than professional investors, which I think is a great thing, by the way. I'm a big fan of retail investors. Even before I got re-involved in Opendoor, I think like the whole purpose of a stock market, let's take a step back. Why do we have a stock market? It's so that we can efficiently allocate resources. That's what you learn in Econ 1 or whatever. Consumers voting with their feet saying, I want more dollars to go to Palantir, or I want more dollars to go to pick your favorite company, Opendoor, is a great thing because consumers should get a voice in where do resources get allocated. So I think it's great when retail people participate. So I think the company had been broken and couldn't communicate its vision, purpose at all. And fortunately, some set of retail people figured it out that here's the high level argument. Residential real estate has not been affected by technology, period. Homes are still basically bought and sold the same way they have forever. It's the largest asset class in the world. What's the chance in the next 20 years that that's true? Pretty low. What's the single best company with the best opportunity to improve through technology the process of buying and selling a home? It's Opendoor. That's the investment hypothesis. Now, delivering on that is very difficult. It requires lots of orchestrated, talented people working together and innovating. The fact that the company wasn't able to communicate that and convey that is intellectually bankrupt. The fact that some retail investors figured it out is great. That's what propelled the stock to increase because they're like, A, I don't like my real estate agents. I don't like the real estate process. I want this fixed. I'm going to give my money effectively to support a company that wants to do this. And then Kaz takes over with an explicit vision of making the process of buying and selling homes easier and encouraging home buying, like home ownership. The company's mission is to encourage more people to be homeowners, because when you're a homeowner, you're a better citizen. Like, there's lots of evidence in every possible way. And so we want to encourage home ownership, and we're in the process.
But what's going to cause like an inflection point? Like, I feel like a lot of this is still sort of the big, what the company has been trying to do.
So we have this cool thing that actually, as far as I know, no other public company has done. So every Tuesday night, we update our metrics on like how many homes we bought. It's called the Accountability Index or something. You can just watch it every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. And, since he's taken over in October, we've massively increased our growth. Secondarily, this will play out, more as we do earnings on the profits, but we're doing better than we ever have. We're better at pricing. Our pricing engine was broken. It wasn't using any modern AI techniques. Like, basically the company had been in like maintenance mode from a technology perspective for like 3 to 5 years. And he's already in like 4 months or so fixed a huge fraction of that. And then you'll see us doing some creative things as well that are a little bit beyond the core of just buying and selling homes. People call it, technology, adjacent products and services. We're basically following the Carvana playbook, truthfully, which is intentional. Carvana is they're probably down a bit, but they were recently a $100 billion company, allowing you to get an instant offer for your auto. More competitive market and smaller market TAM than Opendoor, actually. So we want to follow their playbook. I've always been a fan of the Carvana model since 2016. I've been like, we're on the Carvana. Why can't we just follow the Carvana model? Like, we should communicate this to investors, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. I think it'll be successful, but obviously, we have a whole new executive team, like literally a whole new executive team. So Kaz started 4 months ago. We have a new CFO, new president, new COO. So it's not going to, all of the metrics aren't going to change like immediately, but they're all moving in the right way.
What is this patch, by the way?
It's a brand. It's
okay. It's
you
just
told me
it's
your
too
producer
cool
said
for
don't
me,
wear any
and I have no
brand.
idea.
Your producer said don't wear any branded clothes like for the podcast. I'm like,
I didn't know if it was like, it was.
No, it's like a golden goose or whatever the sneaker brand is.
Okay. And we're about to wrap up, but like, if the Democrats win the midterms, is that a repudiation of Trump, or is it?
Well, historically, the out of power party has won midterms, so the historical precedent would be that. I do think it depends on the magnitude. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. I think the Republicans will absolutely control the Senate. The House is more volatile in many ways, partially it's all redistricting left to right. And no one even knows like who's voting for who. But I think the House will be more volatile. But as far as I can tell, the economy is improving a lot, and people are starting to notice. Like, I saw the right track, wrong track metric. Is your family better off? All those are moving a lot in the last 2
You're
months.
predicting Republicans win the Senate. What about
win the
House?
Senate and maybe even gain seats. The House is probably a 50-50 deal, but I think the first derivative, because I think people do care about their pocketbook, like the conventional wisdom in politics. I think Trump will be successful also. One of the magics, there's several pieces of magic which we didn't talk about Trump. Like, there's lots of things to criticize, I'll grant you. Like, trust me, there are a lot of things in the public domain you can criticize him. But people haven't focused enough on the magic of Trump. He is excellent at motivating people who don't vote often to vote. And when he's not on the ballot, which is typically the case in a midterm, the Republican Party suffers because they're voting for him. They're not voting for Republicans. I think there's so much evidence of this. He understands that. And he understands if he wants to accomplish his goals for the last 2 years.
He needs to loom large.
He needs Republicans. Like, otherwise, there's stuff you can do in foreign policy and everything, but fundamentally to move the needle. And I think he ran for president to move the needle since he got shot.
So he moves immigration officials out of Maine to make it a little friendlier. Clearly not a winner.
He will do well, but I think it really does matter if the economy continues to grow.
But you're predicting close call.
I think the Republicans will win the House, but it's not obvious. I think the Senate I'm very confident in. But anyway, I think it would be bad.
And we're going to continue to have free and fair elections in the United States?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're trying to pass voter ID. Like,
so don't you think passports would be good for Democrats? Like, more Democrats have passports than Republicans.
I'm fine with passports. Give me a library card. I'm probably fine with that. Like, I just think it's insane. You can't go to a pharmacy literally downstairs and buy Sudafed without an ID.
But you think Trump will run for a third term?
No. I don't think so. For lots of reasons. I think he enjoys, like, occasionally, how should I say this? annoying people. Like he likes tweaking
Right.
people, like teasing people.
Well, it's hard to know when he's joking. I think the literally serious thing
I think that's
hasn't been true.
No, but I think you get a feel for when
He did some of the tariffs. People thought he was joking
No,
about it.
I never thought he was joking about tariffs. Like I believe in tariffs. Vinod actually believes in tariffs. It's one of the things we're very aligned on. But I knew he really strongly believed in it and wanted. The key was to get a Treasury Secretary and Commerce Secretary who believed in tariffs, because a lot of Wall Street people are blind about the benefits of tariffs. And so he got a team that believes in tariffs, and that's why they were able to execute it, and that's why we're seeing the dividends. The reindustrialization is very real, the investment in America, but more importantly, the trade deficit has changed radically in 9 months. Almost nobody, including his most positive supporters, thought he could change it that quick and that fast. So tariffs are great. I think you're going to see,
We go all day. I mean, he's driving Canada into China's arms as we speak.
Well, Canada doesn't have a choice. Like, they can fake this. He already canceled. I think Carney already canceled that deal. He announced it.
There are different pieces of it that are coming out.
I mean, look.
Anyway, we clearly see the political world very differently. I appreciate you coming on.
That is fair.
We'll check in after the midterms.
Run a joint campaign. It'll be great. Well, at least out of China.
Well, we both are bullish on, capitalism and tech.
Yes.
But the rest of it.
And Rogo. We'll both be big investors in Rogo.
You don't like fraud, but you're willing to tolerate the candidate who's pardoning a bunch of people. I don't know.
I think by definition, all pardons in history are to people who are convicted. And so Trump does not have the most pardons.
All right. Keith, thanks so much for coming on the Newcomer Podcast.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening to the Newcomer Podcast. I'm Eric Newcomer. Follow us on Substack at newcomer.co. Hope you enjoyed the episode. See you next week.